Hello. So you're looking at either replacing your N64 cartridge labels and making your own, or you're looking at buying them for replacement N64 cartridge labels. So as you've done a little bit of research, maybe you've seen out there that there's a couple of different options with sticker paper. There's actually a lot more than that, but there's two main options. And on the one hand, you have the glossy sticker paper, and on the other hand, you might have something known as a matte sticker paper. So you might be looking at those and going, okay, which one's the best? And so what I'm going to do here is go ahead and share my own personal experiences, just for what works best, and for what application, and my general recommendations after making, several hundred cartridge labels that I make both for myself as well as for selling on a small scale. So when you're taking a look at these things, you'll see a lot of sellers, they don't even give you the option, they just send you glossy. And so I'm going to go ahead and cover the strengths and weaknesses of both of them, because they do. They both have their strengths and weaknesses. So glossy is, generally speaking, going to give you, brighter or sharper colors, as well as a sharper color contrast. But unfortunately, the downside is they have a tendency to be a little bit overly shiny, kind of giving them a little bit of an extra fake look. And unfortunately, in my opinion, the worst part of glossy is that at certain light angles, you're going to get this really annoying glare, which I don't like and I don't care for. On the flip side, matte is going to give you a little bit more of a softer, more natural look. However, the image may not come out, the colors may not pop quite as much, and the contrast that you're going to get on there between the colors isn't going to be quite as good as it would be with a glossy. However, you're not going to get that awful glare, and it's not going to give you that overly new and shiny look. And it'll also look more like a cartridge label that has been around for, maybe, 15, 20 years, rather than something that looks like it just came off a brand new assembly line. It's still going to look new and it's still going to look nice, but it's just not going to look, like ultra sharp and crisp the way that a glossy is going to look. Now, just a little bit of background here. The original OEM cartridge label paper that they put on there, that they put the sticker labels on with, had a matte surface on it. So in that sense, that's why you're going to get a little bit more of a natural look with a matte surface. So my personal observations are, after doing a couple of different types of printers, I used to make my cartridge labels, believe it or not, on a LaserJet printer. And now I've moved on to a Canon TR8622A, which is also the same hardware as the Canon TR8620A, that people are more familiar with. So, anyways, what I've found is that for brighter colors, like so I'm going to give you some examples here. So like Mario Parties 1, 2, and 3, Paper Mario, games like that where you're looking at like brighter colors like oranges, yellows, reds, a good quality matte paper, like a premium vinyl matte paper, is going to actually probably give you the best look and the most natural result. I've seen the ones that I've done on this kind of paper, and honestly, I like them a lot better than the glossy, just because it looks more like the authentic label. The colors are more natural, and they're not overly bright, and you don't get that annoying shine or glare that you do with the glossy labels. Now, on the flip side, on the downside that I found for matte is for labels that use a lot of black on them, like Worms Armageddon, Doom 64, Nightmare Creatures, labels for games like those. What happens, unfortunately, on the matte white is, even with the best matte paper, you're going to end up getting kind of a washed out grayish look with the black. Whereas on the glossy paper, you're going to get that nice, deep black color. So I would say for games like those, actually, overall, when you're weighing the pros and cons, I would say they actually favor the glossy paper just for ones that are predominantly black with the background and everything. So anyway, those are just kind of my personal observations. If you have a label that's got kind of the brighter colors, yellows, reds, oranges, that sort of thing, and they're predominantly those colors, you're probably going to get a better look with a good quality matte paper. And I have to clarify, this is something else that I would recommend. You can get decent results out of ordering cheaper matte or cheaper glossy paper in bulk, and you can get better results out of it than you can with a cheap matte paper. With a matte paper, you do have to go, looking at around ones that are probably around 30 to 40 cents a sheet, whereas opposed to the glossy, you can probably go as low as about 15 to 20 cents a sheet, and still get a decent quality paper that's going to do a good job for you. So that's one of the reasons why when you go out there and you take a look at a lot of these sellers that are out there, they may not even give you the option between glossy and matte, and they just do glossy, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that they can, kind of maximize their profits by ordering a cheaper glossy paper in bulk and having an overall decent image come out. But if you're looking to get the best for your own personal stuff, I would say, where possible, as long as they're using a good quality matte paper, I think you'll be happier with the results if you do a matte on the ones where you get the brighter color labels. As I said, the oranges, the reds, yellows, and but once again, on the flip side, if you're looking at doing, the predominantly black labels with the deep black backgrounds, I would definitely recommend getting a good quality glossy paper. So I do want to clarify that for, I've probably done between about 400 and 500 cartridge labels for the N64, just that I've done, for a combination of my own personal use as well as for sale here locally in my area. And so I've used a LaserJet printer, and yes, you can use a LaserJet printer. Now, granted, you're not going to get as good of a color contrast because you don't get as high of a resolution with it. But with the LaserJet in particular, I actually found that realistically, you just don't want to do a glossy paper with it. If you're going to go the LaserJet route and try and make a go of it with a LaserJet printer, glossy paper just does not do well with LaserJet printers. On the other hand, I found some good quality matte papers that actually does produce decent results. So once again, if you do go matte, look for like the premium vinyl varieties. Those are going to be the ones that are going to give you probably the best color contrast and make it so it's not quite as noticeable with the reduction in contrast between that and the glossy sheet. For the labels, that, as I said, were kind of brighter in color. So anyway, as you're out there and you're either looking to buy the labels or you're looking at making your labels, those are some of the things that I would consider. I am going to include links to some of the papers that I've used and I've had good results with. Above all, just avoid the really cheap quality matte paper, and even the really cheap quality, or cheap glossy. Some of the ones that are like the really cheap stuff where you're talking less than 15 cents a sheet or whatever it might be, you're just going to get really awful results, washed out colors, smearing, and all that fun stuff. So the LaserJet printer that I've used is the Brother 3290. I believe it's like an H3290 CDW, if I remember right. And then the Canon inkjet printer that I've been using is a TR8622A. And as I said, I believe that's the mechanical twin to the TR8620A, for those of you who are familiar with that model. In both cases, I have used the OEM toner and ink. I haven't ventured into third-party a whole lot, just because, especially for picture qualities and image qualities, it's hard to find a consistent third-party ink or toner that is going to run really well, consistently, giving you great colors, giving you great pictures and everything else, and images across the board on various different printers. It's just really, really hard to do that. And I'm not saying you can't get good quality results. In point of fact, if anybody has either of the two printers that I mentioned and has really good results with third-party ink or toner, I'd love to hear about it. So, but anyway, so those are my opinions, is that it depends on the application with whether you go with matte or glossy. My general recommendation is to try and go matte, a good quality matte when possible, but I recognize that there are some applications, as I mentioned, where glossy is just going to come out better. And anyways, that's all I've got, and thanks for watching.